All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today we're going to be talking about collective bargaining and other ways to negotiate between unions and companies. So, here's your warm up picture. Basically, what I'm asking here is what is this artist trying to say about the younger generations? Now, some students in class had trouble seeing this picture because they didn't know what was in that kid's hand. It's a phone. And the person who's saying that quote, stop fact checking my story, that's the dad telling the son, stop fact checking my story. Okay. So, again, what do you think this artist is trying to say? So if you just take it as a surface level, you're not really going to get the answer. It, you really need to think about it. Like take a couple minutes to really think about it. What is this artist trying to say? Look at the situation and things like that, and look at yourself, your generation, you know, um, and write that down. Okay. So pause the video, write your response because we're moving on in three, two, one. So, in the last lesson, at the very end, I talked about how in one of those union shops that you could get hired for a job where you don't have to join a union, but you do have to pay the dues as if you were in the union for the collective bargaining. Now, that's what today where we're starting off with the collective bargaining. That's when representatives from both sides meet to discuss and come to an agreement. Okay. A lot of places do this. Um, any place with unions, even a lot of times sporting events. The players union and the league will during the off season get together and discuss things, so many years and things like that. Now, in most collective bargaining agreements, they have a thing called the grievance procedure. Now, once a agreement has been made, right, between let's just use sports as an example, between the players union and the league, and let's say something pops up, something nobody thought of. Okay. For those of you guys who are sports fan, you might remember some years ago, um like at the first game of the season, they just had a collective bargaining agreement done like a year or two before, but on the first game of this one season, um Tom Brady got hit below his knee and he was basically out for the year, you know. And some people were right away crying, saying, we need to have a rule that says you can't hit a quarterback below the knee. And some people were like, well, the season's already started. We can't just put a new rule in just cause right at the beginning. And the thing is, that would kind of mess up with the uh, collective bargaining agreement. But that's where the grievance procedure comes in because this is a way to resolve any issues that neither side could have thought of. And it doesn't hurt the overall main agreement. Okay, it's another like little subsection. And again, this is where both sides have to come to agreement on it, whether saying yes or no. But again, the main topic, the main agreement that was done, it's still intact, it's still a go. Okay. And again, this is because, we're people, we're human. We can't predict the future. We can think about stuff, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. We can guess that something might happen, but doesn't mean it's going to happen. Okay. And then again, there's just some things that nobody thought of, nobody can think of, and it just pops up, you know. Now, besides that, there are other ways to resolve negotiation problems. That's through mediation, arbitration, fact finding, and injunctions and seizures. So, a mediator, this is a third party person who comes in to help settle a dispute between two other people. Now, the mediator, their main focus is to find a solution that both sides can agree on. Okay. Now, is each side going to get everything they want? Absolutely not. But at least it'll be fair enough where both sides will be at least content with what they get. You know, The thing with the mediator, though, is they have to be unbiased, meaning they can't pick sides. They can't just say, "Oh, what? Since this person told me this, I'm going to agree with them because what they told me. You sound like a horrible person." They can't do that. If someone says something to them, saying stuff like, "Oh, well, if you don't give me this, and your mama this and that," the person could be saying that. The mediator can't be like, "Okay, well, since you're talking about my mama, I'm gonna agree with this side. I'm gonna make sure they get what they want." They can't do that. Okay, they have to like shrug that off their shoulder and continue doing their job and basically keeping neutral and not letting their personal feelings or thoughts sway them. The personal feelings and thoughts sway them a certain way, just looking at the facts. The next thing is arbitration. Now, like I said, this is a lot of times for unions and companies, but basically, again, they put it to a third party person, and whatever that third party person says, that's it. No ands or buts about it. It's sealed, it's in concrete, it's done. Now, when is this done? It's usually done with a company and people. A lot of times it's a company and a customer. Like I gave you the example in class. Like if let's say hypothetically, someone's eating a McDonald's hamburger and there's a rat tail in the patty. Now, McDonald's doesn't want that to get out in the public, so what they'll do is they'll say, okay, um, let's have an agreement. Let's have an arbitration agreement. Let's settle out of court, and they would get somebody who's the third party who is not on either side and will listen to the facts and say, okay, yeah, you know what? Since you had the rat tail in your thing, you're probably sick for this stuff. You got hospital bills. You psychologically damaged, all this stuff, and so they would come up with a number of how much, like McDonald's or whoever would have to pay. Okay, but once they make that decision, that's it. The McDonald's can't say, "Well, can you lower it a little bit?" No, the other person can't be like, "Well, I want to be like $10 million more." No, okay, what they say goes. And the reason why a lot of companies do this is because if this would go to court, then it would become public knowledge, and then people would be able to see and hear um, everything, and then that would discourage people from eating at that place or going to that place, like McDonald's and stuff like that. So they don't want that being out in the public, in open court. So that's what they do: settle out of court, have an arbitration meeting, things like that. Now, fact finding is a pretty interesting thing. This is an agreement between the unions and management to have a third party person collect facts about a dispute and present non binding recommendations. Okay, so again, this third party doesn't care about either side. You know, they're just basically looking at what is this one group saying that might be misleading the people, the public, or giving out these so-called facts that are totally wrong. And they basically say, yeah, you know what? This statement that this group made is wrong. It's misleading. So yeah, no. And the thing is, at the very end, they could say, well, we recommend you guys do this or do that, whatever it may be, and they don't have to agree to it. Okay, it's non-binding. Okay, um, but this is really done quite a bit when it comes to politics. Not just in again management, unions, and some of that, but also in politics when some politician says, another politician, beats children and things like that, or you know, they uh, they don't care about so and so, they hate veterans and things like that. Um, then the other side could basically say, you know what, we're gonna get a fact checker who's again doesn't support either side. They just are looking at the facts. They're unbiased, and they will say, you know what? No, that person who said that statement is wrong. This person, they love children, they support veterans, blah, blah, blah. They have this history of doing this and that. Okay. So That's what these guys do. So sometimes if you go on social media, you'll see like an article coming out saying, you know, this and that. Oh, like Jello was once used to kill elephants or whatever. Then there might be a fact checking thing on the bottom saying, yeah, that never happened in the history of the world. La 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 la. Okay. The next thing is injunctions and seizures. Okay. An injunction is something you do not play with. This is a court order not to act. Um, if you've been following the Trump case recently, you would know that every time after court case, Trump would come out and talk to reporters about like how it's a witch hunt and the judge hates him. He's under the puppet control of the Democrats and the president and things like that. Well, the judge was like, you know what, I'm gonna put an injunction on you so that you don't speak to the press anymore because you're just basically telling lies and things that are in court, which is only supposed to be heard in court, you're telling everyone. So yeah, you can't do that. And that didn't stop him. He kept talking, and then the court fined him, and they basically told him, you keep doing this, you're being contempt of court, meaning you're going to go to jail. And that's where he learned quick. When they put an injunction on you, you listen. So how does this apply to unions and companies? Well, if a union receives an injunction, the workers cannot strike. They would have to keep working in the same pay, same hours, same conditions, everything until an agreement was reached between the two. If a company gets an injunction from a union, from the courts and stuff like that, they can't like start firing people. They have to keep the same workers, same hours, things like that. They still have to pay them, um, even though you know they may be on strike or whatever it may be. Okay, but the company cannot fire them. Okay. The last one is really, really rare. It's so extreme. Like I told the other classes, I think it's only happened like 2 or 3 times in the history of the United States. And this is a seizure by the government. Basically, when the government temporarily takes over a company and they negotiate with a union. Um, like I said, this is it has to be extreme cases. And like I said, I think there's only been like 3 times this has happened, but you know, um, I think the last time was like the 1950s. It's been a while, but that's because those companies were purposely making the life of the workers hell, making the working conditions worse. You know, making them work longer hours and things like that, and just doing everything they can to purposely hurt the workers. And that's where the government came in and said, no, you can't do that. You know. So here's my question to you. Do you think you could be a good mediator? Now, again, it's not just listening there and going, okay, you're right, you're wrong. No, you have to be there, listen, not be biased, be able to take criticism and yelling and things like that and not take it personal and not have that yelling and swearing at you and calling you names, not have that make you lean one way or another. Okay. The best way I can explain this to, like I did in class, is if you look at Mr. Stowers, Mr. Sconyers, Miss Hernandez, Miss Montavia, Mr. C, when your classmates, when they get in fights or they're having a bad day and they're yelling and they're getting angry at people, and then your counselors and all these guys, the SECs, they take them into the room and then you hear them yelling and screaming and cussing at them and saying all this stuff and being disrespectful to them. And yet, the counselors and SECs are still there. They're calm, cool, not taking it personally. You know, do you think you could do that? Could you do that? Okay, without getting all angry or wanting to be like, oh, I would slap them and all that stuff. So would you be able to do that or wouldn't you? And explain. Okay. So once you've written that down, you explain, you're done with this lesson. So hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. All right. So with that being said, guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.